said we're an old country. And the famous tomb of the first emperor is part of this pattern.
You know, they found the tomb of the first emperor of China.
For more than 2,000 years, the tomb of Qin Shi Huang remained closed and hidden under a huge hill of earth. Inside, it was said that there were rivers of liquid mercury, deadly traps, and a full underground kingdom built for the afterlife. For centuries, no one dared to open it. The stories sounded too dangerous, too strange, and too powerful to be true. Then, at last, the tomb was opened. What was found inside shocked the world. But were we truly ready to face what had been hidden for so long? Join us in this video as we reveal the details. The shocking discovery inside the opened tomb of Qin Shi Huang. In September 2025, a team of archaeologists working near the burial site of Qin Shi Huang in Xi'an made a discovery that slowly began to change how experts look at the Qin period. The excavation did not begin with noise or public attention. It began quietly. The tomb had actually been detected years earlier, in 2011, when ground-penetrating radar revealed 9 large burial chambers spread around the emperor's massive mausoleum complex. At the time, researchers chose not to open them. The goal was preservation. The belief was that leaving them untouched would protect them better than excavation would. But nature does not always wait for careful planning. Over time, erosion began to eat away at the ground. Water seeped in. Cracks formed in the soil above the burial shaft. Archaeologists realized that if they waited any longer, the tomb might collapse entirely. What had once been protected by earth could soon be destroyed by it. That risks forced action. When the team began digging, they uncovered a deep shaft tomb measuring more than 300 feet long and about 52 feet deep. At the bottom of that long vertical passage sat a sealed burial chamber. When they finally broke through, the air inside had not moved for over 2,200 years. It was sealed, still, quiet. At the center of the chamber stood an enormous wooden coffin. Even after centuries underground, it weighed around 15 to 16 tons. The wood was fragile. It had decayed, weakened by time and moisture, yet the structure still held together. The team decided not to open it at the site. Instead, cranes were brought in. Carefully, slowly, they lifted the entire coffin out in one piece. It was a delicate operation. One wrong move could have shattered wood that had survived for more than 2 millennia. What made this discovery even more shocking was its condition. Most tombs from the Qin period were looted long ago. After the fall of the Qin dynasty in 207 BCE, rebels attacked burial sites, searching for gold, bronze, and valuables. Even areas near what we now call the terracotta army were damaged and burned during uprisings. But this tomb showed no signs of disturbance. The seal was intact. The objects were still in their original places. It was not just a tomb, it was a time capsule. Its size and its closeness to the emperor's central mound suggested importance. Burials close to the emperor were not given to ordinary people. They were reserved for nobles, princes, trusted generals, or high officials. The deeper and closer the tomb, the higher the status of the person inside. This burial was both deep and near the center. That alone spoke volumes. Once the coffin was moved into a controlled laboratory, experts began slow, careful documentation. Inside, they discovered around 6,000 bronze coins. These coins were round with square holes in the center. They were standard Qin currency, introduced after Qin Shi Huang unified China's economy. Many still had visible characters stamped into them. The number of coins suggested wealth, but it also showed belief. In ancient Chinese thought, the dead needed money in the afterlife. The coins were not only symbols of riches, they were meant to serve the deceased beyond death. There were also jade carvings. Jade was more than decoration. It symbolized purity and protection. It was believed to guard the body and spirit. Wealthy individuals were often buried with jade amulets and ornaments to protect them in eternity. The amount of jade in this tomb strengthened the idea that the occupant was someone of high rank. Weapons were found too. Bronze swords, possibly with advanced chromium plating that helped prevent rust. Armor fragments lay nearby. These items pointed toward a military connection. Perhaps the person was a general. perhaps a commander, perhaps someone who fought and served directly under the emperor. Cooking vessels and wine containers were also present. These were not crude objects. They were finely made, decorated, carefully crafted. The belief at the time was simple. Life continued after death. If you needed food in life, you would need food in the next world too. So you brought your kitchen with you. Among the most striking objects were 2 camel figurines made from gold and silver. Camels were symbols of trade routes that stretched far beyond China's borders. Their presence suggested wealth connected to long-distance trade. Even in death, the person buried here was surrounded by symbols of power and connection. No clear human remains were immediately visible. Soil conditions and time likely caused bone and tissue to break down. But scientists began DNA testing and isotope analysis. Even tiny fragments, if found, could reveal origin, diet, and family ties. One theory suggests the tomb could belong to Prince Gao, a son of Qin Shi Huang. Ancient writings mention his burial near his father after political struggles following the emperor's death in 210 BCE. However, researchers remain cautious. The mausoleum complex contains many elite burials. Only scientific testing can confirm identity. If this tomb reveals so much about power, wealth, and status, then what does it truly tell us about the emperor whose shadow loomed over it all? And how does this single burial connect to the grand and terrifying vision of Qin Shi Huang and his underground empire? Let's delve deeper. The emperor's shadow and the long search for answers. To fully understand this tomb, it is necessary to understand the man at the center of it all, Qin Shi Huang. In 221 BCE, he unified China after defeating rival states. Before him, the land was divided. After him, it became one empire. He standardized writing so people across regions could communicate. He standardized weights and measures so trade could function smoothly. He even standardized the width of cart axles so roads could be uniform. His rule was strict, efficient, and absolute. He also feared death. Historical accounts written by Sima Qian describe his obsession with immortality. He searched for elixirs. He consulted alchemists. He consumed mercury mixtures, believing they would grant eternal life. Ironically, these may have hastened his death. Unable to live forever, he built something else. An eternal empire underground. Construction of his mausoleum began in 246 BCE and lasted nearly 40 years. Ancient records claim that as many as 700,000 laborers worked on it. The complex spans about 56 square kilometers. It is not a single tomb. It is an underground city. The central tomb remains sealed. Ancient texts describe rivers of mercury flowing inside to mimic real rivers. In 2000, soil tests confirmed unusually high mercury levels around the mound, supporting those descriptions. Because of preservation risks and potential dangers, modern archaeologists have not opened the central chamber. Around the central mound are hundreds of satellite tombs. They form rings around the emperor, reflecting social hierarchy. The closer you were to him in life, the closer you were buried to him in death. This newly opened tomb sits close. That placement alone indicates significance. The survival of this tomb may have been due to depth. At 52 feet below ground, it was not easy to locate. Looters often targeted visible structures or shallower graves. It may also have been sealed quickly before large-scale rebellions fully reached the area. Or it may simply have been luck, a hidden chamber overlooked by history. Excavation has not been simple. Mercury contamination remains a serious concern. Workers must monitor air and soil constantly. Groundwater threatens structural stability. The coffin wood is brittle and fragile. That is why researchers rely on CT scans and non-invasive imaging before opening anything fully. Isotope testing will reveal dietary patterns and geographic origin. DNA analysis, if successful, may identify family relationships. Results may take years. Archaeology moves slowly. It must move slowly. One careless action can destroy what time is preserved. 8 other large tombs identified in 2011 remain unopened. Each could hold similar treasures. Each could answer new questions. For now, this single tomb already offers powerful insight. It confirms ancient writings. It reveals elite burial practices. It shows wealth, belief, military strength, and trade connections. For 2,200 years, this chamber remained silent beneath the shadow of an emperor's ambition. Now it is open. The artifacts are being studied. The story is being pieced together slowly, carefully, fragment by fragment. And somewhere within the bronze, the jade, the gold, and the sealed wood lies the identity of a person who once lived under the rule of China's first emperor, a figure whose name may soon return from silence into history. What exactly was hidden beneath the earth, and how did Qin Shi Huang build an underground kingdom meant to last forever? Stay tuned for more. The Underground Kingdom Beneath the Earth. Archaeological research confirms that the burial complex of Qin Shi Huang was not designed to be a simple grave. It was planned as a vast underground kingdom. Historical records explain that construction began when the ruler was only 13 years old. Work on the site continued for nearly 4 decades. Ancient texts claim that as many as 700,000 laborers were involved in building the mausoleum. While modern historians question the exact number, there is no doubt that the project required an enormous workforce. The size of the complex alone makes it clear that this was one of the most ambitious construction efforts in the ancient world. The mausoleum lies near Mount Li, in what is now Shanxi province. Today, the site appears as a large earthen mound rising quietly above the landscape. However, surveys and excavations show that what lies beneath the surface is far more complex. The burial complex covers roughly 38 square miles, making it one of the largest royal tomb sites ever created. Archaeologists have mapped outer and inner walls that once protected the central burial chamber. Foundations of palace structures have also been identified, along with storage pits and areas believed to have housed weapons and tools. The underground design appears to mirror the layout of the imperial capital. Roads were carefully arranged. Drainage systems were installed to control water flow and prevent flooding. Animal remains found in certain pits suggest that stables were constructed to house horses and other animals. The overall structure reflects order, planning, and authority. Experts believe that the emperor intended to continue ruling after death, surrounded by the symbols of power that defined his life. A major turning point in understanding the site came in 1974. Local farmers digging a well near Xi'an uncovered fragments of clay figures.
In 1974, the fertile grounds of Xi'an, China, yielded a spectacular secret. Buried in the soil, farmers found a beautifully sculpted head. One by one, soldiers emerged.
This discovery led to the excavation of what is now known as the Terracotta Army. Archaeologists soon realized they had found thousands of life-sized clay soldiers buried in formation. Over time, more than 8,000 figures have been uncovered. Each one has unique facial features and detailed armor. The army includes infantry soldiers, archers, generals, cavalry units, charioteers, musicians, and acrobats. The level of craftsmanship surprised researchers. No two faces appear identical. Hairstyles and clothing differ based on rank and role. The figures were originally painted in bright colors. However, when they were exposed to air during excavation, the paint began to peel away quickly. Within minutes, much of the color was lost. This rapid deterioration demonstrated how fragile ancient artifacts can be once removed from a sealed environment. The loss of the original paint became a powerful lesson for archaeologists working at the site. So far, 4 main pits containing the terracotta figures have been excavated, yet large portions of the burial complex remain untouched. Ground-penetrating radar and soil surveys indicate that additional chambers and structures still lie buried beneath the earth. These findings suggest that the terracotta soldiers represent only one part of a much larger underground city. Historical writings also provide insight into what may lie inside the central tomb. The earliest detailed account comes from Sima Qian, who wrote his history about a century after the emperor's death. He described a burial chamber containing rivers and seas made of mercury. He also mentioned a ceiling decorated with stars and constellations, as well as models of mountains and palaces. According to his account, mechanical crossbows were installed to defend the tomb from intruders. For many centuries, scholars debated whether these descriptions were exaggerated. Some believed the historian may have used dramatic language to emphasize the emperor's power. Others argued that the stories might have been based on real observations passed down through generations. Until modern scientific testing was conducted, there was little physical evidence to confirm these ancient claims. The scale of the mausoleum, combined with the discovery of the terracotta army, has strengthened confidence in the historical accounts. The complex clearly reflects immense wealth and authority. The underground structures were not symbolic gestures, but carefully planned constructions. The emperor's desire to maintain power in the afterlife appears to have guided every detail of the design. Even in death, he sought to recreate the world he controlled in life. If so much care and planning went into preserving the tomb, what extraordinary treasures and secrets might archaeologists uncover in the newly excavated tombs near the emperor's mausoleum? Let's learn more. Danger, preservation, and the debate over opening the tomb. Modern scientific research has added new layers of understanding to the mausoleum. In the early 2000s, teams conducted soil tests around the central burial mound. These tests revealed extremely high levels of mercury in the soil. The concentrations were far above normal environmental levels. Even more significant was the pattern in which the mercury was distributed. The readings suggested channels beneath the mound, consistent with the idea of flowing mercury described in ancient records. This discovery gave new credibility to the writings of Sima Qian. What was once thought to be legend may have a scientific basis. However, mercury presents serious risks. Mercury vapor is toxic and can cause severe health problems if inhaled.
But how crazy is that? There is high levels of mercury in the soil, and they're really concerned. Rivers of mercury will flow out and kill everybody.
If large quantities of mercury are sealed within the tomb, opening the chamber could release dangerous fumes. This risk has become one of the primary reasons the central burial chamber remains unopened. Another concern involves the possibility of mechanical traps. Ancient texts describe crossbows set to fire automatically at intruders. While no confirmed traps have been identified inside the main tomb, experts do not dismiss the possibility. If sealed in stable conditions for over 2,000 years, certain mechanisms could remain intact. Even if they no longer function, their presence could complicate excavation efforts. For this reason, researchers rely heavily on non-invasive technologies such as ground scanning and remote imaging. Preservation remains a central issue in the debate. The experience with the terracotta army demonstrated how quickly artifacts can deteriorate when exposed to air. The painted surfaces on the clay soldiers faded almost immediately after excavation. If the central tomb contains wood, textiles, or delicate pigments, sudden exposure to oxygen and changes in humidity could cause irreversible damage. Organic materials that have survived in sealed conditions for centuries might decay within hours once opened. Experts also worry about structural stability. The burial mound has remained undisturbed for more than 2,000 years. Opening it could alter internal pressure and moisture levels. This change might weaken supports or cause partial collapse. In addition, chemical reactions involving mercury could damage other materials within the chamber. These risks make the excavation of the central tomb a highly complex operation. The debate among scholars continues. Some argue that modern technology has advanced enough to attempt a careful opening. They suggest that robotic devices, climate-controlled chambers, and advanced preservation techniques could minimize damage. According to this view, the knowledge gained from exploring the tomb would be invaluable. It could provide new insight into ancient engineering, burial practices, and imperial culture. Others believe that waiting is the wiser choice. They argue that future generations may develop even more advanced tools capable of protecting fragile artifacts. Once the tomb is opened, it cannot be sealed again in its original state. Any damage would be permanent. From this perspective, preservation outweighs curiosity. The decision involves more than scientific ambition. It raises ethical questions about how humanity treats its past. The mausoleum is not only a source of historical information, but also a cultural heritage site of immense importance. The central tomb remains one of the few major royal burial chambers in the world that has never been opened. Its sealed state has preserved it in a way that many other ancient sites have not been. For now, the burial chamber of Qin Shi Huang remains closed. The mound stands quietly, holding its secrets beneath layers of earth. Modern science has confirmed parts of the ancient stories, particularly the presence of mercury. Yet the full truth of what lies inside remains unknown. If the tomb itself was built as a fortress of terror, filled with traps, mercury, and delicate treasures, what tools and symbols did Qin Shi Huang create to carry his power and vision into the afterlife? Let's find out. The bronze chariots and the emperor's vision. Archaeologists digging near the western side of Emperor Qin Shi Huang's tomb made one of the most amazing discoveries in history. They found 2 bronze chariots buried under layers of compact earth. These chariots are very old, dating back to around 210 BCE. They were not just for show or decoration. They were made with incredible care and skill and were designed to show the emperor's power and ideas. The first chariot is called the High Chariot. It is bigger and stronger than the second one. Its wheels are tall, and its frame is very solid. This chariot seems to have been made to represent a command post in battle. It is drawn by 4 bronze horses. Even though it is a model and not a real vehicle, it shows tiny details that make it look like it could be used in war. Archaeologists found small weapons, umbrellas, and tools made from bronze on the chariot. Everything was carefully made to show the emperor's power and control. This chariot shows that the emperor not only wanted to look strong, but also wanted to send a message that he could control everything, even after death. The second chariot is smaller and called the Low Chariot. It is very different from the High Chariot. This one is likely for ceremonies, not war. It is also drawn by 4 bronze horses. The horses are shown mid-trot, and their bridles and harnesses are made with amazing detail. The chariot itself has a lower frame, which might mean it was meant for comfort and ceremony rather than battle. Its design is elegant, with careful engravings on its body and wheels. The wheels look so delicate that they almost seem like silk instead of bronze. Historians believe this chariot might have been meant for the emperor's spirit to travel in the afterlife. Scholars have studied these chariots for a long time. Some think they were small copies of real chariots used while the emperor was alive. Others think they were made to guard the emperor and help him move in the afterlife. Either way, they show the emperor's careful planning. These chariots were not just art. They were made to last forever. Bronze, silver, and gold were used to make them strong and beautiful. They were meant to survive for thousands of years, just like the emperor wanted his empire and power to survive. The chariots also show how skilled the craftsmen were in the Qin dynasty. They could make models that looked real, with tiny tools and weapons, working metal in ways that were far ahead of their time. Even today, people studying the chariots are amazed at the level of skill needed to make them. Every part of the chariot was made with purpose, showing both art and engineering knowledge. The bronze chariots are more than objects. They are symbols of the emperor's obsession with control and immortality. He wanted to rule even after death. By designing these chariots, he extended his power into the afterlife. The High Chariot represents strength and command, ready to lead in war. The Low Chariot represents ceremony, elegance, and a peaceful journey in the next world. Together, they show the emperor's careful thinking and his desire to have order and control everywhere. These discoveries give historians and archaeologists a rare look at the mind of Emperor Qin Shi Huang. They reveal how far he went to make sure his rule, his empire, and even his presence lasted forever. The chariots also show that the emperor cared about details. Every small part was made to show power, protection, or elegance. The chariots are more than models. They are a window into the emperor's life, his ideas, and his plans for the afterlife. The discovery of these 2 chariots near the terracotta army proves that Emperor Qin Shi Huang thought very carefully about life after death. He wanted his power to continue. The chariots show that he was a ruler who planned every detail, both in life and in death. They also remind the world of the skills and knowledge of ancient Chinese craftsmen. Their work has lasted for more than 2,000 years, and it continues to amaze and inspire people today. The high and low chariots are now considered some of the most important artifacts from ancient China. They are proof of a ruler who wanted to control not only his empire on Earth, but also the world beyond it. Their discovery gives historians a better understanding of how the emperor thought, what he valued, and how he imagined his afterlife. If the emperor built such a vast and powerful underground kingdom, then what dangers and hidden defenses were placed inside to protect it for more than 2,000 years? Let's take a closer look. Fear, mercury, and the breaking of the seal. The rule of Qin Shi Huang was built on both strong leadership and deep fear. He is remembered as the man who united China, but his power came at a very high human cost. Historical records explain that millions of peasants, prisoners, and forced workers were made to build huge projects for the empire. They worked on walls, canals, roads, palaces, and most importantly, the emperor's massive tomb. The work was long, hard, and dangerous. Many workers became sick, weak, or injured. Many never returned home. Some reports even suggest that large numbers of laborers died during construction. The emperor believed that control was the key to lasting power. He did not only control land and armies, he also tried to control ideas. In 213 BCE, he ordered the burning of books that did not support his rule. Philosophy, poetry, and history texts were destroyed. Scholars who disagreed with him were punished harshly. Some were executed, and others were reportedly buried alive. Knowledge itself became dangerous. Only ideas approved by the emperor were allowed to survive. This shows how serious he was about protecting his authority. This same desire for control shaped the design of his tomb. Ancient records written by the historian Sima Qian described something shocking inside the burial chamber. He wrote that rivers and seas of liquid mercury flowed through the underground palace. For many years, people thought this was only a legend or a symbol of the emperor's power. But modern science would later prove that this story might be true. In the 1970s, scientists tested soil around the burial mound. What they found surprised them. Mercury levels were extremely high, far above normal levels. This discovery gave strong support to the ancient writings. It suggested that real mercury may still be inside the tomb. Mercury is a shiny liquid metal, but it is also highly poisonous. Breathing in its fumes can cause serious harm or even death. If large amounts of mercury were sealed inside the tomb for more than 2,000 years, the air inside could be very dangerous. Because of this risk, officials refused for many years to open the tomb. They feared not only damage to ancient treasures, but also the danger of toxic gas escaping. The tomb had remained sealed for over 2,000 years, protected by layers of soil and stone. Breaking that seal was not simple. It required careful planning, advanced tools, and strict safety measures. Before any opening began, engineers built airtight tents around possible entry points. These special coverings were designed to trap any harmful gas that might escape. Scientists wore sealed protective suits with their own oxygen supplies. They moved slowly and carefully, knowing that one mistake could release dangerous fumes. The confirmed mercury in the soil showed that the threat was real. Ordinary drills were not strong enough for the job. Engineers used diamond-tipped machines to cut through the ancient stone walls. These tools allowed slow and controlled drilling, reducing the risk of collapse. Instead of sending people in first, small robotic probes were pushed through narrow openings. These machines carried cameras, lights, and sensors. They sent back images and data so scientists could see inside without entering. Instruments constantly measured air pressure, temperature, and chemical levels. If anything changed suddenly, the operation would stop immediately. Every step was watched closely. Safety was the highest priority. When the final barrier was finally broken, air that had been trapped for more than 2,000 years escaped. Witnesses described the smell as sharp and metallic. It was a powerful moment. The sealed tomb had finally breathed again. The high mercury levels and the careful process of opening the tomb show how deeply the emperor's fear shaped his plans. Even in death, he wanted protection. His tomb was not meant to be peaceful. It was designed like a fortress, guarded by poison and sealed with precision. The same ruler who burned books and it punished scholars created a burial place filled with danger and secrecy. This chapter of history reveals a clear pattern. The emperor ruled through fear and strict control during his life. After his death, that same spirit of control continued inside his tomb. The presence of mercury, the careful sealing, and the extreme safety measures taken during excavation all reflect one truth. His power did not end with his death. His legacy remains both impressive and unsettling, reminding the world of a ruler who sought control over everything, even time itself. In conclusion, the story of Qin Shi Huang and his tomb reveals more than just an ancient burial site. It shows the mind of a ruler who wanted total control, even after death. From the forced labor used to build the mausoleum, to the burning of books, to the reported rivers of mercury protecting his chamber, every detail reflects power, fear, and the desire for immortality.
To the ancient mind, it must have seemed like a supernatural substance. There was nothing like it. I mean, the natural inclination is to think it has some power, that maybe if you took it into your body, then it would pass this magical property onto you and even perhaps help you prolong your life.
What do you think about the mystery of the sealed tomb of Chinese Emperor Qin Shi Huang? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Thank you for joining us as we uncovered the powerful and mysterious story of Qin Shi Huang and his terrifying underground tomb. If this deep exploration gave you a deeper understanding of the emperor behind the legend, don't forget to like and subscribe. Click the next video on your screen to discover more fascinating stories from history. See you there.